Hello, my name is Concilia Njoku. I am the chairman of Concilia and Kelechi Njoku Foundation, which is an NGO my husband and I started to expand our autism awareness campaign to the rural areas. Okay, so how did you come about this? Um, we are we are parents to two children who are on the spectrum. Okay, so from the experience we've had with our children, especially with our first child, my first son is 7 years old now, and our second son is 2 years and 6 months old. Although our second son is just showing symptoms of autism, has like some of the symptoms like speech delay. Most times he's not aware of his environment, and he doesn't respond to people when people talk to him and all. So his own is quite mild compared to his older brother. So the experience we had with my older son, and my son was diagnosed of autism, to be on the level 2 of autism, when he was almost 4 years old, like 3 years and 10 months old. So from all the experience we've had, it was never an easy one. It wasn't easy for us to get through, and getting to even like find the right therapies for him wasn't easy. So and also the therapies for autism, as it is here in Nigeria, is not easy to afford. Like, it's really financially draining. So I've also come to realize that there are a lot of parents who who are aware of like the condition of their children, who have like autistic children, and they know they have been like told about, they have gone through diagnosis, and they've been told about everything that's supposed to do, the therapies. But by the time they start like searching for therapists, they find out that it's too expensive and they're not able to afford it. Because of it, their children don't even go through therapies. They are not able to help their children because they also don't know what to do. So how I started this, but I just realized that, okay, because of the experience I've had, from what I've had from when I started getting involved in my son's therapy. Okay, first of all, my son started therapy when he was he was diagnosed when he was 3 years and 10 months old. That was in 2021, February. My son was born in March 2017. So we didn't actually start therapy early because we didn't know much about this autism. I know that when my son was 1 year and 6 months old and through 2 years old, we started noticing some differences in him, and he still wasn't talking, because I was always watching, tracking my son's milestones from birth till when he was 18 months old. Around 20 months old, we decided to send him to school, to preschool, because initially we didn't want to send him to school until he's after 2 years old. But because he wasn't talking, we now said, okay, let's send him to school. Maybe by interacting with other children, he will be able to learn to talk and everything. So we sent him to school, and we kept watching him and watching. And after the first term, the second term, there was no improvement in his speech. Then we continued like trying to talk to the teachers, like to make sure that they are trying to engage him in class. We also talked to him at home and everything. By the time he was in that school for up to a year and there was no improvement, that was when my husband and I started to looking for solutions, asking questions. And the school, in that first school, actually didn't know what to do, didn't know how to help our son. So we changed him school to another school. We took him to another school. Then we told the school about all our concerns, and then we also started taking him to the hospital, to the pediatrician, to like do a lot of checks, So in the second school we sent him, examined him. They did a lot of check. They just monitored how he was acting, when he was behaving in classroom and everything. So from there, they gave us advice on what to do and advice how to take him to a child psychologist. And even the hospital we went to also referred us to a neurological scientist. So that was how everything started. So we went for diagnosis, and after all the examinations, all the evaluations, the son was diagnosed with autism. And okay, they said he also has ADHD because he was hyperactive. He was hyperactive. It was notable, like he was hyperactive, and he also a lot of times he was always not very. He wasn't that attention. He always lacked a lot of attention, both in class and when he was among his peers. He always does not ever know. At that time, he wouldn't ever know when he was among other children. Even when other children were always trying to come to him to hold him and play with him when he go out. When other kids tried to come to him, he would just be walking and be going his own way. Like he didn't even understand when he was among other children. So we started our therapy though. And along the line, after like a year, along the line, we always had to change therapists because when we see that a particular condition keeps going on and going on without any improvement, we just try to change therapists to get someone else. So after about a year and a half that we've done therapy, my son already actually improved a little bit. They told us too that the improvement comes gradually because some people would be wanting something like a jump in the improvement. It comes gradually and the speech starts to come little by little. So after a year and a half, by then my son was 5 years and 5 years and 4 months, 5 years and 5 months. My son had improved a little bit. Actually, he was able to identify objects when you ask him, but he didn't have speech yet. So that was okay. I didn't mention that at first when we started therapy, we had to homeschool our son because considering the amount of the therapy, like their therapy was really very, very expensive. You have to pay therapists every month. Then you also have to pay for school fees separately. So when we saw all that, we just couldn't afford it. We told the school that we could not afford to pay therapists and school fees at the same time. And they insisted that we had to like get a therapist. So we also had to meet the psychologist, the child psychologist that we had to use. So we explained everything to our child psychologist, and she advised that at that time, my son didn't have the skills he needed to be in a school environment alone and cope with other children. So the most important thing for us at that time was the therapy. So if we were not able to afford school fees at the same time with therapy, then it would be better for us to just do only therapy at home until our son starts like understand a lot of things, understand his environment, identify things, even be able to respond to instructions and to respond to his name when they talk to him before he should return to school environment. So it was a difficult decision for us to make anyway, but we just had to homeschool our son. We just started doing therapy only at home for our son for up to like a year and few months. So by that time, after a year and about 4 months, by then my son was already 5 years old. So we were now looking at he already made some progress. So we were considering taking him back to school. So we had to even search for another school. We had to now search for inclusive school. One of the therapists we got introduced her to a school where she was working, and we had to like take him to the school to do examination and everything. So we chose the inclusive school for our son because we never wanted to send him to a special needs school, because if he goes to a special needs school where they have only special needs kids, it will be difficult for him to like make good progress when he would just be among only people like him. So my son just needed to, we just thought that my son needed to be among other typical children too, so that it would be easy for him to learn to interact with those other children. It also help him to improve in learning when he just doesn't interact only with people like him, So we went to the school. they did another assessment for him to see which class he would be going to. So I wanted my son, actually, I was hoping that my son would be going to nursery 2. But after all the assessment, they still told us that my son was still lagging a lot. He wasn't even yet responding to questions or instructions. He wasn't able to follow instructions. He wasn't able to identify objects verbally, though sometimes he was able to like point at what you're asking him. And another thing is that he was also like not creative with toys. Like when he sees toys, he didn't yet understand even how to play with a toy. When he sees a toy, he just like gather all of them, raise them up, and throw them out, and just keep screaming. So did everything after all the assessment. The result of that assessment was actually like heartbreaking to me. I didn't see the progress. I didn't see much that those therapists had actually done for my son. They tried, but the improvement was so behind. It was too behind. My son was already 5 years plus, almost 5 years and a half, and he wasn't talking yet. He had not improved a lot. The only improvement he has really had that was really noticeable was that he was potty trained. They helped potty train him, because at that 4 years old, he was still putting on diapers. So he was potty trained. So, and he was able to like point at some things when you ask him. So at that time, I decided to get involved in my son's therapy. Initially, I used to like follow what they do. I used to try to do mine at home, but I wasn't really putting all my energy in it. So at this time, I decided to even like stop my regular job that I was doing. I had to just do part-time job, contracts, part-time jobs from time to time. You understand? So I had to like put all my mind, all my energy in working with my son. When I worked with my son, I was at that time during the holidays. It was long vacation, July, August holidays. I worked with my son intensively every day, at least 2 hours every day, intensively. I put all my time in it, and I made sure to get him to do what I wanted him to do. Like, I put all my energy in it. Immediately, by the time I worked with my son for just two months after I started working with my son was already talking in single words, was saying things out. All those objects, he was able to say names of those objects. He was able to do a lot of things. He started responding to instructions. He started responding to his name. He started writing. My son was still trying to learn how to grip a pencil before that July that I started working with him. So he started writing, identifying numbers and saying out the numbers, saying out those words, identifying numbers 1 to 20, writing 1 to 20, writing letter sounds to Z, doing a lot of things by himself. As in, the experience I had was very overwhelming. It was surprising for me that I could actually do this, and all this time I have actually been just relying only on therapists. I did all the efforts I put helped my son a lot. My son progressed very fast, and by the time school started, he was in nursery 1 for some time, but he was really very much ahead of nursery 1 that they had to give him another test. My son did test. They gave him test that he did the test and passed, and they now moved him to nursery 2. That was how the story started progressing. Everything we're just getting from then. It has always been positive results all every time, every month. We always have something positive to record every month. So it has actually been a lot of it's actually worked well like this because of all the efforts put together. The therapist, he always has a therapist who stays with him in school. The therapist always make sure that she tries to get him. All the therapists always make sure they try to get him to follow what the teacher teaches. Then even the teachers in that school, I'm very happy for that school, for Brookhouse School. Like the teachers there also try as much as they can to also give my son attention. Even when the therapist is not there, they try to get him to follow what they're doing in class. The teachers work very well. The school authority also, they put a lot of effort in making sure that all the special needs children in that school are carried on in everything that is done in class. So the teachers work very well with my son. The therapists there also put their time well working with my son. Then me, I always make sure I monitor everything that is done for my son, everything that is done in school. I monitor it every day. I reinforce at home. I always get, every day, I make sure I get reports of everything they do in school. So that by the time he comes back, I'll reinforce at home. I always make sure I do his homeworks with him, and I make sure that I try as much as possible to explain the things they do in school every day for him to understand as much as possible every day. So as we keep reinforcing, repeating, this therapy, working with these special needs children is about repetition. You have to be able to repeat yourself over and over again. As we kept doing all of that, he's been improving a lot. Even now, he's very, very, very good, up to speed with his classmates. He's in primary 1 now, and everything, he responds well to everything that is being taught in his class. And another way we even started trying to help him is by me. He actually had to get another less therapist, a therapist who work with my son during weekends. She just comes from time to time to help me to introduce new topics to me. She just comes from time to time to introduce new topics. So we try to like make sure that every term, before my son starts a new term, the therapist will come and introduce everything that's supposed to be done the next term. We introduce every topic to him before the teacher teaches it. So we start teaching him at home. I start teaching him other topics at home. So the therapist will introduce it. Then I would keep reinforcing and doing as much as I work with him every day through the week. So sometimes during weekends I'll be busy. So I'll call the therapist to come and help me to. This is like how we do it. Just we follow him up without giving space for relaxation. That's how we get to prevent regression on him, on his own part. So we try as much as possible to introduce every topic before the teacher teaches it in school. That's how we've been helping him now to progress better. So from my experience working with my son, I've seen how much my son has progressed because I got very, very much involved in his academics, in his the therapies they do for him. So even my son started talking in single words at 5 years plus, just before he turned 6. He was talking like in single words. Then he kept improving on his vocabularies until this year. This year, when he was 6 years and 10 months old, around February, 6 years and 11 months old, that was when he started talking in sentences. Though he doesn't talk very much in sentences just yet, but he now talks in sentences. He can actually like say things he wants sometimes in sentences. But we also do a lot of prompting. Like sometimes he might want something, he will just come to you and maybe he might be crying, or he just come to you and be looking at me somehow. At home we try to prompt him to say it. So what do you want? What do you want? Just say it. You want? I want. What do you want? If we keep insisting, then he will say it out. So we try as much as possible to prompt him. And another thing that also helped him in learning to talk in sentences is the curriculum they have in school now. In primary 1, they are teaching them. Now that in primary 1, since first term, they've been teaching them how to make sentences. So we've been doing a lot of reinforcements on making sentences from the beginning of this primary 1 until this third term. So it has helped him a lot. Both the schoolwork, the one we do at home, a lot of things have helped him. So as I was saying, so from the experience I've had working with my son, I've come to realize that a lot of this therapy, a lot of the progress we got from my son depended on the parents getting involved. So that's why I now decided to try to get parents involved, try to do sensitization, talk to parents of this or special needs parents, talk to them and explain to them what they can actually achieve from getting involved in working with their special needs children. So because of this, at first, when I was just thinking of how to create this awareness, with the help of my husband, I just figured out to start an online coaching for moms. So in March this year, March this year, I started free online coaching for moms, for special needs moms, moms with autistic children or other children that are just speech delayed. So I started doing online coaching, free online coaching for them about how they can do home speech therapy, conduct home speech therapy for their children. Just the regular therapies they can do that they just didn't need to like wait until they have they just didn't need to go do some certification on or any kind of studies. I just said like explain it to them in a layman language way that they can just be doing something for their children at home. Both for parents, some of these parents already have therapists working with their children, but I just had to encourage them. I had to explain to them that they need to get involved to be able to see better results. Then some other parents too that I've been working with don't have therapists working with their children. Some of them already knew that they're supposed to get therapists, while some of them didn't know before that they needed to get therapists for their children. So even some of them that already knew that they were supposed to get therapists, they didn't have or they don't have the funds to pay for therapists and also send the children to school at the same time, just like the experience we also had. So I talked to these moms and told them what they can do, how they can help their children. And since March, I said that in March this year, that's like 3 to 4 months ago. So I started that in March this year. And by now, I have like almost 40 moms I'm working with, like more than 35 moms I'm working with now. And a lot of them are already getting positive results from what they are doing. And they are very happy that at least they can get this guide on something to do. Because it's not easy. I know what I passed through. I know what me and my husband passed through looking for ways to help our son. We did a lot of researches. We did a lot of researches both on YouTube, on Facebook, a lot. We did a lot of online researches on how to do home speech therapy for our child. But the thing is that you would see, most of the time, we would see like a little tips from here and there, a little tip they will give you, but we never saw a comprehensive guide on how to perform home speech therapy for your child and be totally in charge of what you're doing by yourself and be able to get results, So that's why I decided to do this. And I decided to I just said I can also make videos of how people can do their therapies at home to help their children as much as they can. So that's how I started all this. So then from working with these moms I've been working with for a while now, I've also come to realize that a lot of these moms I'm working with are still the learned ones. They are the educated ones who can do this. But in our rural areas, in our villages, we have some moms, some parents who also have special needs children, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how to help these people, their children, and they just they just feel they don't have any hope. And even the people from our communities, a lot of our communities in the villages, they just believe that any child who has symptoms of autism, they might not even know exactly what it is called. But when they see that a child does not talk, doesn't even behave like other children, when you're talking to him, he's going his own way, they feel this child cannot just be important. The child cannot achieve anything in life. They just abandon that child. So we want to use this medium to send out our voices to the villages to let these people know that their children can actually learn. A child who is speech delayed, who has some delays, developmental delays, can also learn. A child who does not talk can also learn to talk. That your child doesn't talk now doesn't mean that your child cannot talk. That they want them to understand that there's a special way you can teach your child to learn. That your child that people see as someone that cannot just be anything important in the future is actually the same as the other children that you see as sometimes they just see that this one is not normal. I just want people in the villages to understand that their children are normal. Your child is normal. Even if your child behaves differently from the other child, your child is very normal. The only thing is that your child is different, and your child requires to be taught in another way. There's a special way that your child should be taught for him to understand. So that's it. I want to like use this medium to like send out this information. And apart from just sending the information to people in the villages to tell them that their children can be taught, that the child can actually learn, I want to also find a way to actually promote this teaching, to teach them how they can teach their children. You understand? So what I'm planning, my plan is that, okay, through my contacts, on my social media handles, and even my physical contact, I would like to like identify children from various villages in this our country, Nigeria. Children who may be having speech delay or any other symptoms of developmental delay, that the parents may be thinking they don't have any hope again about the children's future and everything. So if they identify a particular child, particular parent, I will get the contact of the parents, and I will talk to the parents very well, sensitize them on this, tell them about what they can actually do for their children. And even though I know that most of these parents, they may not be able to do much, because some of them may not be educated, and some of them won't even have the time. They will always be in the farm or in the market or everything. So what I want to do for those parents who cannot do much for their children, I would talk to them to help me and identify, or help me and find some fresh graduates in their communities, some fresh graduates they have around. And maybe even if it might even be a young secondary school leaver who might be waiting for their JAMB results, but someone that is very intelligent, that a secondary school leaver that is very intelligent, that can actually teach small children, or maybe a young graduate who might be waiting for youth service, or who might have just finished youth service and trying to figure out something to do. So if I identify those people, and I would also have to like find out I would also like to like be sure that these people are people that these young people are people that are passionate about teaching, that can actually teach children, and people that have patience, because working with special needs children entails a lot of patience. You need to have a lot of patience to be able to repeat what you're saying, repeat yourself over and over and over and over again. So I would like to the people that I would notify to also be people that are patient enough to work with children. Then I'll talk with those people. I'll talk with them, those young people, and after talking with them, I'll be able to like figure out someone I can work with. I will teach that person how to guide that person on how to do these therapies for these children, the speech parts and even the academic parts, to help these children as much as possible. Then when I finish like training them on what to do, then I would, if I see that this person can actually do this, so I would do it in a way that these children will now be homeschooled by the therapist that I'm going to hire. Then I will now have to like come to an agreement with the parents of those children to publish their details, because this is an NGO, would have to need funds to pay the people that will be doing the therapies for these children. So I will now publish details of those children, every particular child that we've gotten in our into our program. Then I publish details and publish it on our social media platforms. I can even do flyers too, to hand out to people I know, people that can help, to use that medium to source for funds, to raise funds, to be able to pay the person who will be teaching them. So when we finish raising the funds, I would make sure that I make lists. I list out every fund that is gotten for a particular child. I'll separate everything for each child. Then following that fund, I can now make a plan on how to pay therapists to work with this child, and how many months that fund will be able to take us to work with that particular child. So I'll put that therapist on a monthly salary schedule, So we'll be working with that therapist and we'll paying him or her monthly to work with the child. So even as the therapist works with that child, we'll also like talk to the parents. We'll also like talk to the parents to try and get involved. At least they would have young people in their village, even if the moms or dads cannot do it, they would have young people in their family who would be coming to the village from time to time, or who would be around sometimes when the therapist is working. Let them put their mind in trying to learn what the therapist is doing for that child, so that later in the future they can carry on with that, because this therapy is not something that will be done a month or 2 months or 6 months or 1 year and stop. This is something that has to be carried on for a very, very long time to make sure that that child does not regress, So that's the plan. That's how I plan to like work with this people. And even as the therapist to work, I would make a report template that these therapists will be using to do reports for me every month to see. I would make sure I track what they're doing to make sure they are being productive, so that someone will not just be there and I will just spend money and not get any results. And so if I notice that any of them is not showing that we're not getting any good results for a particular person, I will change that person and get someone else. So at the same time, I will also like make sure that from time to time, I will also like do a video call with them when they are doing their therapy sessions to watch what they are doing for the children, how they are teaching the children, and also make corrections when I need to like give them corrections, So that's it. That's it on that. So even before, anyway, just like I said, so when we do the after doing the trainings, after coaching, training these people on how to do therapy, before they start the therapies for the children at every location, every rural, every village, before they start for every child, I'll have to like procure therapy materials and send down to the various homes, send to the parents to keep, and give them advice on how to use that, how to keep it safe, because I'll just have to tell them that they have to just give them the right advice on how to keep the materials and how they're going to be used, So that's it for now. Okay.